Welcome back, Georgie.
Thank you, Maggie.
It's so great to be sitting down again with you today.
It's beautiful to be here.
And it's been a little while now since we last caught up. And of course, the last time we spoke, we discussed the 9 steps to building resilience against anxiety. And for those that perhaps didn't catch our last chat, let's recap. So exactly what is high-functioning anxiety?
Right, so high-functioning anxiety is the kind of anxiety where from the outside it looks like you've got it all together, but on the inside it's a very different story. These are our high achievers, perfectionists, and there tends to be a sense of caring a lot about what others think, which leads to people-pleasing as well, which is putting everyone above yourself and leaving yourself as the last on the priority list.
And I would imagine that that's quite common at the moment.
Oh, it's actually glorified in our society, this sense of always being productive, always achieving, going for the next goal, and never really allowing yourself that space to sit still, tune in with yourself and check what's really important to you. What are your values, and is your life aligned to that? When we have high functioning anxiety, we tend to just base our lives on other things that aren't necessarily really important to us.
I'm so glad that we're delving deeper into this today. Georgie, you mentioned that we're not aligned with our values. What does that mean? Why are we so disconnected?
That's such a great question, Maggie. And the reason being, we have so much around us that is calling us away from really being in what we're feeling. Not to mention our own brains are wired for us to move away from anything that feels uncomfortable and painful and move towards pleasure or distraction. So many of us are scrolling on our phones, watching our screens, not really feeling what's inside. And that is a prime part of high functioning anxiety. It is, we don't want to feel the anxiety, so we want to look outside of ourselves to try to distract it, to try to not feel it.
And I would imagine that has a compounding effect when we start doing that in different areas of our life, day in, day out.
Exactly, it sure does. And this is where we end up, in relationships we don't want to be in, or in jobs we don't want to be in, or simply out of balance in terms of our health and our well-being.
Got it. And I know this is a really big question, but what are some of the simple ways we can start to reconnect at home?
Look, it can be a bit of a journey to reconnect, but I would say just one basic thing we can all start with is starting to reconnect with our body, starting to reconnect with our senses. What are you feeling moment to moment, and really being honest with yourself about that. We're so used to shoving our feelings down. If we're feeling sad, we want to say, no, I'm happy, and put on the happy face. But being honest with yourself when you are feeling sad, connecting with that feeling, letting yourself feel it, that's connecting to your body, connecting to your senses. We can also connect to our other senses, and one that I think is so beneficial is, and overlooked, is our sense of smell. Noticing the environment around us, noticing how things feel in our body. So for example, this is where in essence, essential oils can be really useful to just bring us back to that present moment, bring us back to what we're feeling. When you inhale those scents, not only are these essential oils having a therapeutic effect to calm your nervous system, but it's bringing you back to that connection with your body, that connection with yourself and the present moment.
Oh, Georgie, that just sounds ideal. And I must say, I even noticed that ritual of going, okay, time for me, popping on the diffuser and adding my oils. Even that, I find, signals to my brain, hang on a minute, it's time to slow down.
Absolutely. And you get a muscle memory with that too. So your brain starts to know, when I inhale this scent, this is my time to calm down. So there's so many elements to how this therapy is supporting us in our bodies and in our lives.
Georgie, I feel like we're all getting really, really busy again. And for someone with high functioning anxiety, I don't know about you, but I feel like that could be a really challenging time.
Absolutely, Maggie. And I think we've got to understand, even though the instinct is to keep going with that busyness and keep getting things done, it's more important than ever, if you are relating to high functioning anxiety, to take that time for yourself and make it happen, where you do let yourself slow down, where you do create space in your day. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen and you'll keep running on that hamster wheel. So some beautiful ways that we can do this that are really simple. It doesn't have to be hours at the day spa. You can create that experience that relaxes and calms your whole nervous system just in the comfort of your own home. A few favorite ways I like to do this are, running a bath or using water, using your shower, creating a space for yourself to decompress and unwind. We are never going to stay completely in that present moment, but when we have these reminders to bring us back, these rituals that are going to bring us back to the present moment, that's really, you're winning. That's all you need to do, is just create that opportunity for yourself.
That message is so important today. Georgie, that connection that I've heard you talk about a few times now between the mind and the gut, I know that was something that we didn't delve into the last time we spoke, but I'm seeing that everywhere I look, and that mention of gut and mind. What exactly is that?
Well, I think we all know the experience of butterflies in your stomach. There's a reason why we feel anxiety in our gut. That connection between the brain, the mind, and the gut is so powerful. We have this whole nerve highway called the vagus nerve that connects our brain to our gut, and there's a constant communication going back and forth. So if you notice that when you are feeling more stress, more anxiety, it affects your digestion, you're not going crazy, there's definitely a connection happening there. So some ways that we can kind of start to work this out for ourselves is just noticing, when you are under more stress, what's happening with your bowels? What's happening in your digestion? Do you feel more bloated? Do you feel an upset? A lot of people experience this sort of unexplained mystery nausea. There's a reason why, and it all comes back to this beautiful gut connection. What I love the most about this too, Maggie, is that this is one way that we can calm our mind through connecting to our physical body, through working with our body, supporting our gut health. So it's not all about trying to get calm. It's not all about managing the mind. There's things we can do physically too, and I think that's really empowering to know.
That really is empowering to know, Georgie, and it's nice to know that there are some pragmatic things we can do outside of, again, all of our beautiful calming ways of moving into a more holistic lifestyle to actually support our feelings of anxiety.
Exactly.
Okay, so with this in mind, Georgie, what are some of the things I can do day to day to help improve my gut?
Okay, so there's a few steps to consider here, Maggie. The first thing we've got to be aware of is what are the factors in our life, in our lifestyle, that are currently harming our gut and not taking the most care of it. For example, stress on its own isn't great for our gut. So stress management alongside looking after your gut works really well. And vice versa, as you look after your gut, you're going to be able to manage stress and anxiety better too. So we need to think about, are we taking loads of medications and things unnecessarily that maybe we don't need to, that are having a harmful impact on our gut? A lot of us are very quick to take an ibuprofen, and not always is that necessary. And just taking these things on a regular basis, or drinking alcohol every day, or binge drinking isn't great for our gut. So we have to be mindful of those things first. The next step is looking at this vagus nerve that we have and using the vagus nerve to create a calming effect in our body. As I said, as we manage that stress, we're going to help the gut to regulate itself, to rebalance. So one way we can do this, and I've mentioned this before actually, is using apple cider vinegar. So this is very important that you dilute it with water. Never take it on its own, but all you need to do is basically grab a shot glass, and if you fill 1/3 of that with apple cider vinegar, 2/3 with water, always dilute, and have that about 15 minutes before your first meal of the day. What you're doing is you're actually switching on your digestion. You're waking it up for the day so that it's ready to receive that first meal. It's really going to support your digestion and help take that load and pressure off, especially if you usually don't feel hungry in the mornings. So it's switching on your digestion, firing it up, getting it ready for the day. That one's really important. The next step is looking at, can we heal this gut lining that's probably taken a bit of a toll just from living life? So we naturally will experience some wear and tear on our gut lining, and we call this inflammation. So what we can do to manage this inflammation, and remember when I say that word, it's happening on the cellular level. It's not like we're all inflamed, but we can certainly manage it better. And one thing we can do is increase our consumption of certain foods like bone broth, which I think most people aren't aware of, is actually just an ancient food that our grandparents were consuming all the time, making the most of these nutrients available. We can also have gelatin, we can have collagen, you can add it to smoothies. There's so many ways that you can add these foods into your diet. They actually have nutritional building blocks that help heal that gut lining, reduce the inflammation, and help the functioning of your gut overall. If we have an inflamed gut lining, we also have that mild cellular inflammation happening in the brain, which changes our ability to balance and regulate our calming chemicals in our brain. So if we can reduce the inflammation in the gut, we can reduce the inflammation in the brain, and it's easier to manage stress and anxiety.
I'm so glad that you went into that in more detail for us today, and also that I can just start simply today by adding in that apple cider vinegar.
Exactly. You don't have to, necessarily have a huge diet overhaul to see an impact and to start seeing changes today.
This is all so useful this morning. Tell me, are there any other ways that I can connect to my body?
Look, Maggie, yes. As a woman, we classically see this disconnect between being in tune with our menstrual cycle and the fluctuations of our hormones through the month. Especially with high functioning anxiety and the pressure we tend to put on ourselves, we literally expect ourselves to be the same woman every day, the same level of productivity, the same level of focus, energy, concentration, the same ability to smash out a workout and perform at the best as we can in our jobs. And this is just not realistic when you consider that we are cyclical beings. We literally change week to week depending on what our hormones are doing. And this doesn't have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to hold us back. In fact, it's something that when we're aware of it, I like to say it's like if you don't know what's going on with your hormones, it's like driving a car blind. You don't know why today you don't have as much energy as you did last week. When you learn what these fluctuations are, you learn that you have a follicular phase in the first half of your cycle where you have more energy, more productivity, more ability to come up with creative ideas. And then in our second half of our cycle, we're in the luteal phase. We're winding down. We're naturally more inward. We want to say no to social invitations, and that's okay. You start to have this real sense of acceptance with yourself, this ability to say, you know what? This is just what my body needs right now, and it's okay for me to be slow at this time, knowing that that inspiration, that next wave of energy will be right there in the next week.
So interesting, Georgie, and what a different way to allow ourselves to look at things and move through the months.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things I could do?
Right, so to build that connection, to be more aware, it really comes down to listening to your body. I think it's fantastic to track your cycle on an app. So many of us aren't doing this, and when we do, we get to start to see, oh, okay, this makes sense. I'm in the lead up to my period, so that is why my energy levels are lower. That's why I'm more sensitive at this time, versus beating yourself up. So noticing where you are in your cycle, keeping track of it, and learning about the different phases would be a really amazing place to start, building that real dialogue between you and your body and what's happening with you week to week.
Georgie, thank you. That's definitely some dialogue that I think so many of us could benefit from.
Absolutely.
Building. Georgie, I can't thank you enough again for today. We always love talking to you. You provide us with so many pragmatic ways we can, go into that wellness journey further. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Maggie.